Let me take you back to the year 2008. Every Friday afternoon, we used to wait for something a list of people who would lose their jobs. And the worst part, nobody knew whose name would be next. Hi, I'm TS. I was working in a multinational company during the 2008 financial crisis, and that experience completely changed how I look at money. Within a few months, everything changed. The company's philosophy was customer first. Our focus moved from customers to collections. We were not talking about growth anymore. We were chasing receivables. Travels got restricted. Customer visits stopped. Even basic expenses were questioned. Even critical customer visits required multi level approvals. People who were solving customer problems were now asked to recover money. And slowly things got worse. The people who were facing customers started using personal credit cards due to expense restrictions, and it took very long time to claim expenses related to customer visits. And the interest on the credit card was huge. At the same time, layoffs had already started, and honestly, nobody knew who would be next. That's when I realized this can happen to be anytime. It didn't matter how hard we worked, and it didn't matter how experienced we were. If the system changes, we can lose everything overnight. And the truth is, I was not prepared. I had no backup, no second income, nothing. That's when I decided I should never depend on a single source of income. At that time, I didn't even know terms like financial independence or fire. And no one thought about fire because no one came across these kind of situations for decades. But I realized one thing, I needed control. I decided that if I survive this layoff, I should be ready for this kind of unforeseen situations. Luckily, I survived 2008 crisis. So I started looking for a way out. Not suddenly, but slowly. I was getting handsome salary compared to the similar industry. As a first step, I reduced my expenses as much as possible and I cleared my personal loan to reduce liability. Also, I increased my savings rate. Then, around 2010, after accumulating some capital, I started exploring a second source of income. During that time, my family was also needed support. So we decided to build something together. We didn't jump blindly. We explored options, visited markets to analyze the market, tried to understand what would actually work. Finally, we chose to start a business already we knew. I invested and my sibling handled operations. Whatever I had, I put into that business and even I took loan to start the business. Also, I added additional investments whenever possible. Quarterly incentives and yearly bonuses directly went to that business. Not to get rich quickly, but to build something step by step. But starting a business and making it work are two different things. Very soon I realized business is not easy as it looks. Frankly speaking, sales were there, but we could not realize profits as expected. Due to cash flow issues, we had to take higher interest loans to overcome cash flow issue. Whatever we earned went into high interest loans. That's when I understood something important. Profit on paper doesn't matter. Cash flow is everything. That phase taught me more than any other job ever could. I started understanding how money actually flows, how decisions affect cash flow, and how small mistakes become big problems. Around the same time, I made another important decision. I moved into a sales role, not just for career growth, but to understand business deeply. That decision changed everything. I started interacting with business owners and decision makers, and that really helped me to understand how real decisions are made. And I noticed something interesting. Even in crowded markets, customers were willing to pay more if you solve their real problems. But at the same time, most suppliers were competing on prices and not really looking at the customer exact requirement. So I changed my approach. I carefully listened to customers before making any sales pitch and tried to understand their real expectations and the problems. I started thinking like a seller and started thinking like a customer. I kept asking myself on a critical question. If I was the customer, what would I expect from the seller? That one shift helped me stand out. Over the time, I learned to see patterns. These small signals told me a lot about business. That's when I realized you don't always need numbers to understand reality, and that became my biggest advantage. My career and business started running smoothly, and I expanded my business. I started getting passive income from my business, which was more than my salary. I used to reinvest whatever I am earning from that business. But just when things were becoming stable, COVID happened. Demand disappeared almost overnight. But expenses didn't stop, and customers stopped paying. Many business owners around me stopped paying to their suppliers to preserve their cash reserve. But I remembered something. The best business don't break trust even in tough times. So I made a difficult decision. Even when I was not getting paid, I continued to paying to my suppliers. I had to take loans, use my savings, even I had to sell my assets to make this happen. On paper, it looked like a loss, but in reality, I was building something far better than valuable trust. Yes, I was building trust during that critical time. And that changed everything. Suppliers supported us by giving first preference to us. We could get quality workers. Quality improved. Customers noticed this difference. Not because we were cheap, but because we understood. Today, things are very different. I left my corporate job. I diversified my assets, and today, I don't depend on a single source of income. Not because of one big decision, but because of many small, consistent decisions. And it all started in 2008 when I realized nothing is secure. Because in the end, it's not about how much you earn, it's about how much control you have. If this way of thinking makes sense and you find value, you can support the channel by liking this video and subscribing to this channel only if it genuinely helps you. Thank you for your support.